Hi, I'm Strength and Conditioning Specialist Mike Mejia, a brand new contributor here at the new Inside Lacrosse Women website. And this is the first video installment of my series on ACL injury prevention. Now, in this first video, we're going to be covering warm-ups. And specifically, we're going to be covering the type of neuromuscular warm-up that's been shown to significantly reduce your likelihood for incurring an ACL injury. So let's go ahead and take a look at those drills right now. Alright, so first up we have a drill called flings. Now flings are done much like jumping jacks, except for the fact that you can be crossing your arms and legs. And the advantage to doing this is by crossing the arms and then bringing them back behind the torso, we're stretching out the chest and the front of the shoulders where athletes tend to be tight. And by scissoring the legs, we're also activating the muscles of the groin as well as the outer thighs. Great way to increase blood flow and body temperature. After the flings, we go right into prisoner squats. Now with these, we're teaching good squatting mechanics by emphasizing that the athlete do three things: keep their chest up, drive their hips back, and keep most of the weight on the back and outside parts of the feet. What this is going to do is prevent the knees from pinching inward and also prevent the knees from driving forward and putting too much strain on the knee. Especially with female athletes, you always want to do anything that you can to promote good squatting mechanics. Here's an interesting drill called the around the horn. Now with this drill, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on active static stretching, so not your traditional static stretching. Here the athlete stabilizes on one leg as she brings the leg out in front of her, then out to the side, and then back, holding each position for a second or two. Now you can see how much difficulty she's having stabilizing here, so we're working stability through the hip, knee, and ankle on the support leg, in this case the left. And when she lifts the leg out front, she's getting a stretch in the hamstring by using the quad. When she lifts it out to the side, she's using the outer thigh to help stretch the adductors of the inner thigh. And when she lifts the leg back, she's activating the glute and stretching the hip flexor on that same back leg. And those are around the horns. Here we have a hip bridge drill for more glute activation. Now we're going to do the unilateral or one-legged version here, but you can feel free to do the bilateral version by keeping both feet on the floor if you're just starting out. Notice the way she lifts that leg up so she keeps the knee stacked over the hip and drives up using the left leg. Now I also want you to notice the way she lifts the toes because she's really digging into the heel, emphasizing glute and hamstring involvement on that left side, keeping the core braced nice and tight, and that's the unilateral hip bridge. Okay, we're up for some traveling dynamic flexibility now with a rotational lunge walk. Now a couple of things I want you to pay special attention to here. First is dipping into that back leg. You want to make sure that you get a nice stretch in that back quad and hip flexor by allowing that back leg to come straight down so that the front knee doesn't go driving far out past the toe. The other big thing is once you get into that lunge position and you start to rotate, you keep that lead knee set right over that ankle. In other words, you don't let that knee pinch inward or bow outward as you're rotating from side to side. And this is a rotational lunge walk. Here we have a side lunge walk. Great drill. Once again, we're activating the glutes and hamstrings of the side that we're squatting to, in this case the right, also getting the quads involved. And we're getting a nice dynamic stretch in the leg that we're going away from, this time being the left leg. Notice the way she sits back, keeps that chest up, and most importantly, keeps that right knee loaded so it's pointing straight ahead over the toe. She's not allowing that knee to bow outward as she steps out. Here we have a drill called the balancing leg swing. Now you can also do these by holding onto a fence or holding onto the shoulder of a training partner out on the field. I like the balancing version though if you can manage it because it's another opportunity to work on stability through the hip, knee, and ankle. Keep the torso nice and erect and then a gentle swinging motion. You'll stretch the hamstring when you bring the leg forward and you'll feel a nice stretch in the top of the quad and the hip flexor when that leg goes back behind you. Just remember to keep that core braced and the torso nice and neutral. Even more challenging is the balancing side leg swing rather. Now here you can see she's having a lot more difficulty stabilizing, but again we're getting stability through that hip, knee, and ankle. And the objective here is to turn the toe out as the leg goes away from you to stretch the inner thigh, and then turn the toe in across the front of your body to stretch that outer hip right down the side of the leg, stretching the ITB as well. And that's the balancing side leg swing. Our final traveling dynamic drill is a hip cradle. Now here what we're going to do is we're going to lift the shin and grab the outside of the ankle and tug upward, and what we're going to do here is stretch the glute on the side of the leg that's being pulled, and we're also getting some good calf activation, a little balance and stability work on that back leg as well. Great stretch for the glutes and something that you're definitely going to want to open up before lots of running, sprinting, and changing direction, and that's the hip cradle. Now I'm also throwing one strengthening drill in here as well. Now we're not going to do too many reps of this prior to a practice, but this one's called the unilateral squat and reach, or the one-legged squat and reach. And you can use either a water bottle or an agility cone to do these, something that's about a foot high or so. And you're going to place it 1 foot in front of you and 1 foot over to the side. And then just as the athlete is doing here, you're going to squat down by once again driving the hips back, keeping the chest up, and simultaneously reaching across the body. Now the cross body reach is important. We want to make sure that that knee stays lined up right over where that foot is pointed, not pinching in or bowing out. And try to get a nice simultaneous motion going as you keep that chest up. Great exercise to help prevent against ACL injuries. Just take your time with these because they are difficult. And that's the one-legged squat and reach. Alright, so there you go. You've got a sequence of 10 drills that you're going to need to do at least a couple of times per week prior to practice to help reduce your likelihood of suffering an ACL injury. Now please make sure that you're paying attention to the proper execution of each drill. There's also one other thing I'd like to include here. In the study that I referenced in my article that mentions a 64% reduction in ACL injuries from doing a similar type of warm-up, they also go over landing mechanics from plyometric jumps. Now I've done a whole plyometric video that you can find on the Inside Lacrosse website by clicking the link below. And that will show you the proper landing mechanics for both single leg and double leg jumps. And you can add some of those in as well. That does it for this time. Be on the lookout for the second installment of this series where we go over strengthening. I'll see you next time.